Control is the opposite to vulnerability. You see, vulnerability is your willingness to take risks, to be seen, to be heard, to be understood when you can't control the outcome. See? So vulnerability and control very much live on two opposite ends of a spectrum. So I ask you right now, where are you on that spectrum? Do you need control over things, over people, over circumstances? Do you feel like you would feel vulnerable if you detached yourself from the outcome? Right? How would you feel if you had no control? Yeah? How about vulnerability? How willing are you to take risks? How willing are you to show up and let yourself be seen? How willing are you to go all in on something when there's zero proof that you can do it, that it will work? When there's plenty of uncertainty around what is going to occur when you're doing it? Sit with those questions for a bit. They are essential to ask, especially if you're an entrepreneur, a coach, a high performer, someone who is an artist or expressing yourself in some way, because you are dealing with uncertainty a lot. Yeah? You are put into a position a lot where you get to take a risk, right? Where you are growing. And for you to grow, there's definitely going to be a lot of uncertainty in that process of growing. Because you're going to shed a lot of conditioning and a lot of previous identities and a lot of beliefs to be able to hold the space for new to come in. Yeah? So, control is the opposite to vulnerability. You cannot try to control something or someone or yourself and at the same time be vulnerable, okay? They just don't work well together. So you get to choose. Am I willing to begin to show up and be seen? To show up and be seen, right? Even though that I feel vulnerable in that process. Can I maybe go into a relationship without knowing if this is going to pan out or not? Can I invest time, energy, and effort into this business without knowing whether this is going to pan out or not? Can I just simply show up and be myself? Regardless if I don't know whether that is going to pan out or not. Right? Those are the types of questions that I invite you to ask yourself right now. And I'm asking them to you so that they get to activate truth within you. The truth is that you can actually handle vulnerability, but right now you might think that you can't. Oftentimes, this kind of need for control or an unwillingness to be out of control, it actually stems from points in the past, right, where you felt out of control, right? Where you grew up in circumstances that either felt unsafe, where you didn't feel provided for, or you weren't met and seen and understood for who you were. You were isolated. You were bullied. You had to take on a lot of responsibility. A lot of things were out of your control. For me, The reason I picked up control as a perfectionistic tendency was because, frankly, I was an only child, or I grew up as an only child, to be specific. And I had my parents, and my mom was struggling mentally during a period when I was a teenager or younger than that. And I was also quite bullied or isolated at school, and I didn't really find my gang or my support system. I didn't feel like I kind of had that. And so what was the solution then for me? Well, it was grabbing a hold onto what I felt I could control. I could control my grades. I could control how I showed up at school. I could control my appearance. I could control, to a certain aspect, things at home by taking control over the things that I felt were not being taken control over, and controlling how things turned out for my mom and everything, I just felt like that was my go-to. That was my coping mechanism. And I'm trying to share here from my own personal experience so that I can give you a subconscious permission to see that this is actually pretty normal. And it's actually pretty common to attach your worth to the outcome and control the outcome and think that if you can just control the outcome, everything will be fine and you will be worthy of love and belonging. When in fact, you are already worthy of love and belonging without that control of the outcome. So right now, just remind yourself, you are not the one you were back then. If you can go all the way back in time in your imagination, you might even close your eyes here if it's safe for you to do so right now. Close your eyes and just allow yourself to see a timeline in front of you. However you organize your time, whether it's going through you or outside of you, allow yourself to travel back in time on your timeline to the times where you felt bullied, isolated, misunderstood, where you felt like the only way to cope was through taking control of yourself, of others, of the situation at hand. Go all the way back to that time, and you might have scenes coming up. You might have nothing come up. You might have sensation in your body come up. You might have nothing come up, and it's totally fine. Just allow yourself to travel back in time to that time. And as you observe that, you can observe it from the outside, knowing that you are not reliving it, you're just reviewing it. You're just reviewing that right now, and you can begin to see how that was your coping mechanism back then. You did exactly what you felt like you needed back then to feel loved, to feel understood, to feel taken care of, to feel like you had some sort of control when you feel like you didn't. Just allow yourself to see that you just did exactly what you thought was the best for you and for others. Okay? Allow yourself to come back up on your timeline. And now you can float all the way back, forward, moving towards now, through all the different events, all the different times, observing all the different times where you have taken control over the situation, over a person, over yourself, and giving and spreading some compassion over each and every those times. And then decide that you are not in that position anymore, where you no longer need that control. You are willing now to show up and be seen with uncertainty, knowing that it is okay to face uncertainty, knowing that uncertainty is the birthplace of creation. It is the birthplace of your authentic self, the birthplace of you actually showing up and letting yourself be seen as is, and drawing in the opportunities, the people, the whatever you would want and need right now in your life and business. Seeing that things are so differently now. So floating all the way back to now, in the current time you are in right now. Giving yourself some grace for what you just imagined and what you just did and what was actually real, because your subconscious mind does not know the difference between real and imagined. It does not differentiate between those. So what you imagined was real. You just actually shifted things in your subconscious mind where you now can begin to show up and allow yourself to face feelings of uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. Because you can. You truly can. You can open your eyes if you had them closed. Welcome back to now. Feeling so much more confident in being able to actually meet uncertainty, right? Meet risk, meet emotional exposure with a sense of calm and ease, knowing that that is totally, totally, totally natural, that you actually can face that. You can. It's just a matter of you seeing it, and you see it now, don't you? You are not that kid anymore, right? You are not in those positions that you were in the past. You're here now, and you get to show up and be seen, be understood exactly as is. I invite you to join the other sunflowers and bloomers of high performers who are committed to create a life and business of freedom from perfectionism with the power of the subconscious mind, using techniques like these. This is time techniques, this is a form of NLP techniques, which I use. And you can go to bloombeyond.com/apply to apply. It's a 256 members limit, monthly cohorts. There's a waiting time and a waiting list to join. So make sure to apply to get on that waiting list. And we'll have a look at your application and see if we're a good fit to work together. It's totally free as well. And as I said, it's monthly cohorts. You also get the opportunity to then explore our paid programs, which go into depth of your perfectionism and truly help you also contribute beyond yourself and tap into your true creativity. And also, a big part of the Bloom Beyond Perfectionism program, for instance, is to actually, what I call, cross the wooden beam of acrosia, to cross resistance, to overcome resistance in the form of control. Because that is what it is. You have resistance to something. You have resistance to your light, for instance, to shining your light. And so you begin to control yourself and circumstances and events and people to not have to step into the unfamiliar of shining your light. Because the familiar is probably more easy to deal with, isn't it? But we want you to begin to make the unfamiliar familiar, right? To begin to see that it is safe to create, to explore, to express yourself without that control, but rather facing vulnerability and seeing that as a superpower. So I might see you on the inside of Bloom Beyond Tribe, which would be so amazing. So go to bloombeyond.com/apply. And as always, stay bright, brave, and balanced.